Okay, Gatos, as you know, his cat is in the market soon for video card. And I'm so confused. I'm so confused. Because, like, I knew Dexterto was a bad, like, a non-credible news source. But today's article that they released has me, like, what are they? On somebody's payroll now? NVIDIA GeForce RTX 4080 Super's Founder Edition. Price to perform. They literally had a tweet that said this is the best video card for your money right now. And I'm like, wait, what? Wait, what? NVIDIA's RTX 40 Super lineup has been a mixed bag, with the 4070 similarly incredibly impressive, offers heaps of value at the same MSRP as the vanilla model. Meanwhile, this 47 Ti Super offered most performance uplifts at the same price as the original, but the 4080 Super aims to deliver slightly more performance at $200 cheaper than the 4080. Imagine trusting those idiots. That's where I was like, whose payroll are they on to try to pump that misinformation out? You know who I do trust? Did an AI write this? Like, that's also something. Like, are they on NVIDIA's? Are they kissing ass to NVIDIA to try to get a free video card? Because this is not what an actual expert is saying. Here is an expert I actually trust. Gamers Nexus just released a video on the 4080 Super. I was gonna say, like, these are the people you want to listen to. This channel, they just give it as straight as it is. Giga Chads. They are Giga Chads. They just give you the data and lay it out. Like, don't listen to Linus. Yes, Linus is another financially biased. Only listen to Steve. That is correct. So, let's see what Steve has to say about the 4080 Super. Lame. The title is literally lame but cheaper. 4080 Super discussion of value. So I'm gonna skip around. Like, this is a nearly 30-minute video. I'm not gonna make the Gachos watch a 30-minute video because it is cut and dry. And if you are looking to sleep, like, some people like watch this very attentively, and some people this is the perfect elixir to go to sleep. So we'll skip around, but let's see what the actual reviewers have to say.
Unlike NVIDIA and AMD with the RX 7600 XT launch, we're not going to waste anyone's time with bullshit today. The answer is 1 to 3%.
1 to 3%?
That is the percent improvement of the
1 to
4080
3
Super over the original 4080. We spent 20 hours testing and
wow,
validating that behavior, and now we can produce our one-sentence review, which is 1 to 3% better for the 4080 Super. So
wow.
Thank you everyone for watching, and go to the store.
Great start for the. He literally gave the too long didn't read at the beginning of the video.
Super, and the only thing worth talking about is the price.
Is the price? Yeah,
price
it's a discount.
$1,000 now, down from $1,200 for the original 4080, and they are functionally the same card for all intents and purposes. For benchmarking gaming performance, you should think of them as identical.
Identical.
The difference between the two, it basically amounts to noise.
It's plastic cores.
It wouldn't even show up.
This dude's now my name.
If the test environment isn't clean enough.
He's a freaking badass.
If this were still $1,200
he's a Giga Chad.
for the 4080 Super, then the review
and they're very meticulous about their testing.
About one of the most aggressive reviews we would possibly put together, similar to the 4060 Ti last year, because it would be a massive waste of everybody's time and attention and the same price. But NVIDIA has learned. This time, it launched a boring product with a better price, and that actually genuinely does complicate things a lot. Before that, this video is brought to you by the Deepcool AK620 digital air cooler.
All right, we'll watch this
sponsor.
sponsor.
We previously reviewed the baseline AK620 as a strong performer and extremely price competitive. Now, the new digital variant includes a screen with a display for some extra flair, including CPU temperature and high temperature
We'll let
warning.
him go in the next chapter, and then we'll
If you
jump
like the
ahead to the
AK620's
data.
performance but wanted more visual pop
No
without going
BS.
liquid,
No
consider the
BS.
AK620 digital at the link in the description below. The 4080, as we said in our launch review, was never worth $1,200. It didn't make sense.
Remember
for
when people
workstation
actually still
users
air-cooled
like us,
PCs?
unfortunately.
True, Claudius,
The lack
true.
of VRAM, it actually genuinely
That's
does
my air
matter
cooler.
a lot
Well,
on
not
the
the
4080
digital
versus the
version.
4090.
Yeah, that's
so
pretty
NVIDIA
good.
succeeded
They're
in
pretty good.
creating an actual tiering difference between its top end and its next down, which historically they were a lot closer than they are today. And because of that, the price has grown, the gulf has grown between them, and that's probably partly because NVIDIA knows that the professional audience really doesn't have many options at the high end. Anyway, the trouble with all of this is that the 4080 never should have been $1,200 to begin with,
Yes.
which does complicate the price drop as well,
That
because
sucks.
it's not as simple as just congratulating NVIDIA and saying, good job, you dropped the price, everybody's
It's
happy
basically
now,
a price cut in a
because they're
different
just kind of
box.
bringing it back to maybe closer to expectations.
I remember
and that
when
makes the
liquid
price
cooling
reduction of the
was
4080 Super
worth
feel like
doing
some
over
kind
air
of
cooling.
Stockholm syndrome. It is kind of a good thing, and the value certainly improves, but it's also difficult to praise something that has moved from complete insanity to moderately deranged. And that's what we're going to be looking at in the review today. Traditionally, many years ago, the 4080 Super would not exist in this capacity. It would have been a price cut.
It would
NVIDIA
just
used
been
to
a
do
price
this
cut.
more often. We get press releases where they give us the lineup of their whole GPU stack, normally around
That's
or
what they should have
just
done.
before or after.
Just to eliminate
an
the
AMD
confusion.
GPU launch. Intel wasn't in it at the time. And the news was, hey, the price cut improves the value, and that was about it. It was not as often a new card as we get today. So
No, but
taking this approach
confusion is a
means
feature.
that NVIDIA
True,
gets to strap a
Smokescreen.
sticker to the end of the
True.
existing card with functionally the same performance. Again, in ways where the changes are not meaningful and generate some buzz. Clearly it's working. We're talking about it. Probably a lot of other people are too, because it's a new card, rather than just doing the price cut where it gets covered in
Yeah,
news
confusion
and
is
everyone
good
kind of moves on.
For
They're-
business with
they're
PC
definitely
builds.
adapting the
It just
strategy.
doesn't feel
Anyway,
good.
let's review
Doesn't
this card.
feel good.
This review won't be like any of our other GP reviews for the last few weeks. So we've
'Cause that's
done
why so many people
massive
go to
amounts of charts.
SIs.
Some of these reviews were like 30, 40
Because
charts,
SIs
to really prove the
take
work
the
and show
legwork
how
out
things
of
have
it,
changed.
in theory.
But because this one is so simple, we are keeping the review very
you shouldn't
simple,
have to get
and
a
we're going
P-
to boil it down
a
to really just a few
PhD
metrics
on
here and some
PC part
general
picking.
industry discussion. So this, just to prime everyone, is a little less structured for the amount of data. If you want it, there's a few ways you can get it. One, we're going to just publish all the charts in a mega charts thing on the website. That'll contain the 4080 Super data on it on gamersnexus.net. We'll run a separate video to do a bunch of other updates when that happens.
It's gonna show you
can get it
behind
there
the
if you
scenes.
really want the raw
Interesting.
absolute FPS numbers. The other option you have, and this is a sincere recommendation from me, is you can go to any one of our charts, the 4080 published in the last couple weeks, and you can multiply the number
Wait until you learn how
FPS that the
finicky
4080
Expo
is
is.
against 1% if you want the
Expo.
low end, or 3% if you want the upper bound. You add them
What's
together,
Expo?
and there's your difference. So that would be how you could quickly calculate it. And yes, it really is that simple. At 1080p, sure, you might have some truncation from CPU bottlenecks or whatever, but it doesn't really matter because we're talking 1 to 3%. Okay, so instead of going completely ham and doing all the latency, efficiency, and everything else that we were originally planning to do, let's just get straight into kind of the recap of everything.
Okay.
Here's the specs. The 4080 Super, as a reminder, has 10,240 CUDA cores and uses a perfect 8103 die. The original 4080 was also 8103.
Wow, you have way more cores
but
and
it was
only
cut
get
down from
1 to
9728
2
CUDA cores. This could have
1
been
to
for yield
3%?
reasons. There's also obviously some
cat's in the
natural
way.
product segmentation built
Sorry.
into this as well. But normally the
AMD
yields
tech.
improve as the
Oh.
process matures, and so it's not uncommon for a GPU manufacturer to open up the die a little more. The end result is that the new 4080 Super has 5.3% more CUDA cores, but it also has an advertised clock bump. It's just very slight. And here's the chart to join the recap.
Okay.
We could spend 30 minutes chart spamming to show our work
Drop
like
kicks
normally,
AMD.
but this one really just doesn't deserve it, and no one should watch that anyway. So this summarizes it pretty well. Genuinely, you could multiply any of these percentages against the 4080 results on a chart from a week ago.
Oh, this
as
is
long as
just
you know which one you're looking
4080.
at, and you get a rough idea for where it lands.
And the
With
Super.
the 4070 Ti Super launch and the relative lameness of that card, we said it seemed possible
just a
that
form of
NVIDIA was
overclocking
couching
for
its
memory?
weakest
Oh,
launch
okay.
between
Okay.
its two better cards, the 4070 Super and, we thought, the 4080 Super. For performance, that speculation didn't pan out. unfortunately for the 4080 Super and our interest levels in testing it. But the value is actually better.
Okay.
And so that's what makes this anything worth
basically
talking
they
about
should have
at
just
all,
done a
as we
price cut.
said. However, the original assumption that the 4070 Ti would be the most boring
AMD
one,
version
that
of
was incorrect.
XMP.
It might actually be this one. Just
It's
from
like you
raw
guys are
performance.
speaking
Anyway, back
English.
to that 4080 versus 4080 Super chart. We weren't expecting a world of change with the specs.
Yeah,
change,
there's just like
but we were
a
expecting
frame
little
or
better
two
than
off.
An average uplift of say 1.9%. Here's a quick comparison of the RX 7900 XTX versus the 4080 Super. First showing only ray tracing in isolation because the advantage flips. And the favor is toward NVIDIA here, whereas the raster favor is toward
RTX.
AMD. In this chart, we see the
AMD.
unbelievable lead NVIDIA holds in Cyberpunk ray tracing.
That's smart enough.
which
Dude,
we
I'm a
just
cat.
ran into the
Like,
test
I'm
suite
literally a
and,
cat.
running ultra RT settings. And
I
then
didn't go
there's
to
a
school.
disproportionate advantage that falls as RT settings are reduced. We see this with medium going from a 60+% NVIDIA favor to about a 30% favor. Still huge at rough price equivalent, but it's a big difference. And Dying Light 2 shares at least the medium sort of percentages. Resident Evil favors AMD here and is a lighter RT workload, so that makes sense. Tomb Raider and F1 are also both medium to lightweight RT workloads, and that gives us a fairly full picture of the types of RT games right now.
Okay.
We have those which heavily leverage ray tracing and swing the performance towards NVIDIA in big ways, and we have those which supplement more
I'm
and
gonna
impact
jump
it less
ahead
heavily.
to,
Here's the
Uh,
Try it out. Here's 1440p for the 4080 versus 4080 Super. If we were to draw a line at an
Cost per
approximate
FPS.
average, it'd be in the $8 to $9
Oh my
per
god,
FPS
this is
range.
just the two
For the
cards?
original 4080, 6.5 to 7.5 for the
Like, this
4080
is how
Super.
in the
Generally
soup to
speaking,
nuts
you can
this
see
guy
from the gap
goes.
that the 4080 to 4080 Super,
Like, I just want to see how they
improves
perform.
by a similar amount per card. Again,
Hello.
the actual dollar number doesn't really
Thank you,
matter.
Little
because
Hollow.
the FPS is just make it basically whatever you want depending on the games. But the
This is why I get
difference
to
is
the-
what matters, and it's improved. For perspective, let's look at these numbers as a percent reduction
All
in
right, let's
cost
go. How it compares on the GPU price and value chart.
claims for this one. It might go away in the future, but we might also rework it. 100% is baseline best value of the cards presented on this chart, where value is determined as the dollar per
Basically,
FPS
cost
number. The result
per
has
frame.
the 4060 as the cheapest per FPS, so it's at 100%. The 4090 is about half the quote-unquote value of that. If we want
Yeah,
to
but
make
the 4090
decision as a
can-
community to phrase it that way. And one of those major nuances is the fact that a 4060, for example, could never do some of the things a 4090 could do, and you can't really represent that here. But regardless, what this does is tell us the direction NVIDIA is going. By this chart, it would in fact appear that the 4080 Super's new price drop has improved its quote-unquote value. The 4080 is among the worst on the chart and lacks some of those nuances that a 4090
Cost per
provides.
frame.
For instance, despite being a so-called low value by this chart, the 4090 is still the only one on this list that we would buy for our editing machines due to the VRAM. And that's not something that gets measured here. Anyway, it's kind of a lot of talk about just, we're playing around with charts, numbers, and ideas because the audience is
asking
constantly
that.
providing concepts for new things. We've debuted a lot of them recently.
Yeah,
It's fun
cost
to
per
do,
frame is a good way to
and we
look
just
at it.
bake
But,
into reviews at this point. But anyway, the
but when
takeaway here-
the card is not going to be able to lift the load that you're trying to lift with it, then it's like a non-starter. But that was an interesting chart to see. Like, it's showing that, you know, 4080 Super is economic value for this price point. And it's definitely an upgrade over the 4060. So I guess this is between the two 4080s and 4080 Supers, I guess they're decent mid-range cards. But okay. Alright, well, if you want to finish, let's see how long his conclusion is. His conclusion is 4 minutes. Oh, let's do part of the conclusion.
reviews at this point. But anyway, the takeaway here, strictly from the perspective of, is NVIDIA making things better value or not? At least for the 4080 Super, it appears to be yes. And even if you just remove all of this and look at the fact that the price came down $200, but it's basically the same product, the answer is yes. We don't really need the chart to prove that. What's more interesting is looking at things like
Straight
the
shooter.
4070, the 4070
Straight
Super, and the TI Super to try and gauge value there. And generally speaking, as you go up the stack, the value tends to get worse. That's historically been true. The 4070 Super helped to revive some of that. The TI Super, unfortunately, was a bit of a dud. and the 4080 Super, we come back to the same thing from the very beginning, which is it's cheaper. None of the playing around with charts and numbers and trying to do something interesting, using the review as an opportunity to explore different presentation methods, none of it changes the fact that the only other alternative here for charts would be 30 minutes of me losing my mind increasingly, probably using an increasing amount of and stronger grade of adjectives to describe the 4080 Super's performance, such as, for example,
I wonder if he's gonna have a
1.923678% improvement, which is one of the biggest percent improvements we've ever seen if you ignore the decimal. That's the kind of commentary you lose, but no one needs 30 minutes of that. So the price came down. The only factor
he's still
at this
close to
stage
30
that
minutes.
we are considering
He's still close to 30
is
minutes.
basically that. The 7900 XTX is now effectively the direct alternative to the 4080 or 4080 Super, where previously the XTX was cheap enough at that $200 drop, typically sometimes more, where you might not even be a customer if you were trying to spend $1,000 and not $1,200, because that's a big increase.
Yes, that
In
is
this
an
case,
increase.
we can't praise NVIDIA for
Hype for nothing.
basically
I
doing
called
what
it.
it
True.
should have done
True.
a long time ago. We can, however, say that this is a better situation.
But at least brought the price point down.
Kind of goes
Like,
back to
that's the
not getting
takeaway.
suckered into believing this is kind of
Yeah, but don't get
new
suckered
method
in
for
that
keeping the average
it's going to
prices
be
high.
the
But
most
it's at
awesomest
least
card.
improved. Now, all that said, one thing we noticed as a positive in our efficiency testing, the 7600 XT review, was that the 4080,
Watch the 4080 Super be out of stock for AI shit soon. Like, everybody's buying up cards now just to hoard them.
At least based on the original kind of review, performance numbers, products at the time it came out.
It just feels
but
like
the newfound appreciation was specifically
feels
for
like
efficiency, where in terms of performance per watt,
Stanley Cups.
or however you want to look at that, the 4080 was actually impressive, and the 4080 Super is
People
basically
losing
the
their
same thing
minds
here,
for
just a little bit better still. So
value
that's
for
something
average
that our
gamers, not
review overhauls are
VTubers.
helping us see, which is
It's
pretty cool.
true.
Anyway, that's it for now. You have enough to work with and make
True.
your decisions. It's the same thing but cheaper, and we'll publish as many of the raw FPS numbers as we
Still doesn't feel good knowing that I'm still most likely looking at a $2,000 video card. Like, should I just wait? Should I just wait till there's a freaking 5090? Like, or 6090 at this point? Like, I guess frustrating as a consumer. Alright. That's the video. If you guys don't already support Gamer Nexus, I highly recommend you do. These are like one of the last credible sources left on YouTube, so I highly recommend you support their channel. So I'm going to share this video with you if you guys don't already follow them. Tab over to Kick, where I have a viewer, which I'm not sure who it is. Here's a copy of that 4070 video if you want, or 4080 plus video, and share it with a friend if you want. There you go. Okay, cool.